Hi, Caleb with Brownells here, and in today's tech tip we're going to be installing the Samson SXT Handguard. So this one right here is the mid-length version, so I think it's about 11 inches, which perfectly covers a mid-length gas system on an AR, so it'll cover your gas block. It is available in a few other lengths, but they all install the exact same, so we're going to be working on this particular one here. So just features of the handguard real quick before we jump into the installation if you're not familiar with it. Machined out of aluminum, 7075. The inserts for the QD slings are actually steel inserts, which is nice to see. Overall, this is a pretty beefy handguard compared to a lot of the other ones. So it does have a little bit of weight to it, especially in that barrel nut area, which we'll take a look at in just a second. But it's nice and rigid. It's not going to flex at all. And you have some anti-rotation tabs there. And a gas tube support, which you don't usually see on a lot of handguards. And we'll kind of get to that in a second as well. Alright, M-LOK all the way around on the 45s also, which is always cool to see. So you can, plenty of room for any accessory you want to put on there. Alright, let's just jump right into the installation. So this is how it is when you receive it. Everything's kind of already just set in there instead of having a bunch of loose parts in the box, which is kind of nice to see. Alright, so we'll just grab our hex driver here. A 9/64 should do it. And I'm using the Fix-It Sticks Field Armor kit, but I have a Brownells Magnetip driver in there because they're awesome. We'll just pull these two screws out first. Let's see what happens with this barrel nut. I haven't installed this one yet, so we're doing it for the first time. There's a lock screw that goes on the bottom, and I see what that does. I'll show you here in just a second. Alright, we'll just pull that right out. And you don't need to remove it all the way, but I will just for the purpose of this video. Alright, that's just a long set screw, and what that does is it locks into this back groove on your barrel nut so to keep everything nice and tight so it can't slide forward at all. Alright, and the two screws we pulled out of the horizontal here, those just actually clamp to said barrel nut. Alright, and then we have this top screw, which holds our gas tube support. And haven't really seen that too much before on AR-15 handguards. But I'm assuming the purpose here. And that is if you have a gas tube that's misaligned at the gas block a little bit, it makes sure it's going into the receiver straight, which is an interesting feature. We'll just let that drop out. I'm taking it off because I don't think we're going to be able to clear the gas block when we put the handguard on. And I'll get to that here shortly. Alright, so now we have everything disassembled. We're ready to start the installation. Tools we're going to need a vise. We're going to need a way to hold our upper receiver for AR-15, which is, we're going to be using the Mark 1 Mod 0 device for that. One of my favorite tools. And we're going to be using a torque wrench to torque our barrel nut down. The actual barrel nut wrench comes with the handguard. Alright. And as I mentioned before, our Fix-It sticks. So we'll just... Oh, and a little bit of Brownells Action Lube Plus, because I put that stuff on everything. Alright. We'll secure our upper receiver. I'll turn it a little more towards you, which is more difficult for me, but it's better for you, and I'm here for you, alright? Alright, so let's keep going here. Let's get our barrel installed into our upper receiver. I'm just going to take this barrel, a little bit of the Action Lube Plus on my finger, and rub it on there. Put a little bit on the barrel extension itself. A little bit goes a very long way. And a little bit on the front shoulder, because that is where our barrel nut contacts the barrel. Alright, and I'll just kind of put it into that upper receiver, like so. Alright, and then I'll just put a very small amount on my upper receiver threads. You don't need a lot there, just a little bit. And I'll close this up before I get any more all over me. Okay, so now we can actually start with the barrel nut itself. And this is a nice beefy steel barrel nut. It's got some good weight to it. Nice and solid. And it comes forward nice and far too, which is going to help stabilize your actual handguard. So I'm just going to screw this down by hand. Now I'm going to cut my tool open. And it does come with Allen wrenches if you don't have a full set like I do here. Alright, now we are going to take our driver 90 degrees to our torque wrench. And I'll also say there's no torque settings on the instructions that Samson provided, so we're going to make them up. We're going to do what we do best. Make things up. Alright. So I got this set to 45 foot-pounds, which is a reasonable amount for a AR-15 barrel nut. And we're just going to tighten it down. Alright, and then now I'm actually going to back it off and tighten down one more time. This isn't totally necessary. All it's doing is just marrying up the threads of the receiver to the threads in the barrel nut. If there's any differences in them, any slight differences I should say, they're going to be the same thread regardless. Tighten that back down. Okay, we're good to go there. Alright, at this point what you need to do is install your gas block and gas tube. And I've already pre-installed the tube to the block. If you don't know how to do that, we have plenty of other content that highlights how to do that, including the build series, AR-15 build series on our website. And we'll just secure our gas block here. Yeah, it's the right size. So I'm just going to line it up. If you have a bore scope is a really good way to do this. We'll just tighten that down. Alright. Now, the reason I removed this gas tube support that goes right here is because in Handguard, I needed that clearance to get over my gas block. So we'll slide over, and I'll just set the support on the tube with the hole, that drilled hole, facing the receiver. Just like so. And that's actually, I think that's the first one I'm going to put back on. If you want, you can use a little bit of blue Loctite, some blue thread locker on there, some Vibratite. I'm just going to torque everything down. It's not absolutely necessary as long as everything's torqued properly. Alright, so we'll just kind of set it up like that so you guys can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to take this bottom screw with the correct driver, 5/64, and that's just going to go into the hole there, which I'll pull this out and show you so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm just driving in this screw right here. And as I'm going in, I'm just going to kind of feel and make sure it's going into that groove. Alright, yeah, it's definitely in there. It's bottomed out. I'm going to back off just a little bit because I want to make sure my upper receiver is aligned. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and put in my horizontal screws here. Alright, And again, there's no torque setting for these, but as Steve often reminds me, I'm a gunsmith and I should know the torque settings based on the size of the screw. So these look like they're maybe a size 10 or 11 screw, so we're just going to go to 35 inch-pounds on those, and that should be just fine. You could go to 40 if you want to. 40 would be acceptable as well. You know what? I'm just going to go to 40. 40 inch-pounds. I lied, I did that one to 35. We're going back to 35. 35 is the final, I promise. That's what we're doing. 35 inch-pounds. Alright. Now we'll go back to the bottom screw. And this one, we're going to go to 18 inch-pounds. There we go. Alright, let me put my things away here. And that's all there is to it. So from here, you just install whatever muzzle device you would like to install. Again, we have a ton of other content on how to do that, as well as every other part on the AR-15. Also, I didn't mention before, this handguard comes with a M-LOK aluminum rail section. So if you have something that attaches to 1913 and you want to put it on one of the offsets or sides or bottom or whatever, you can do that with this. You don't need to buy any extra stuff. So that is the Samson SXT Handguard installation. If you have any questions or comments or experiences with this handguard and you're watching this on YouTube, let us know in the comments down below. And as always, if you need any help on anything ever for any reason, feel free to give us a call on the tech line. We'll be happy to help you out. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.